Hey, can I ask you something weird? What if the future of money didn't look like paper bills or plastic cards, or even those numbers in your bank app? What if money became something you can't hold but can send in seconds? Something no government could control, something no bank could freeze, something built entirely on code. Sounds futuristic. Well, it's already here, and it's called cryptocurrency. Now, before you click away, no, this isn't a video trying to convince you to buy Bitcoin. This is about something much simpler and way more important, understanding. Because you've heard the word, you've seen the headlines, you might even know someone who made or lost a bunch of money from it. But chances are you still feel like you don't quite get what crypto actually is. Like, what is it for? Why does it exist? And what makes it valuable? If that's you, welcome. This video is your full guide to crypto. No hype, no jargon, no shouting, just storytelling, examples, and a little perspective that can change the way you think about money forever. Let's start with something simple, but kind of mind-blowing. Take out your phone, open your banking app, see that number. It could say $1,000 or £500 or 3,200 euros, whatever. Now ask yourself, where is that money really? Not physically, not as paper, not in your hand, just numbers. You trust that your bank is keeping it safe. You trust that if you want to spend it tomorrow, it'll still be there, that it won't just disappear overnight. And for most of us, that trust works, most of the time. But what if that trust breaks? Or better yet, what if we didn't have to rely on it in the first place? Because that, right there, is the entire question crypto was invented to answer. Not how can I get rich, but something much deeper. Can we redesign money itself, to work without trust in the middle? That's where we begin. Let's go back in time, way before crypto, before the internet, before banks even existed, to really understand what money is, how it's evolved, and why crypto is actually the next logical step in that evolution. Round pushpin, let's begin in the next section. What is money, really? Let's rewind. Way back, before we had apps, credit cards, banknotes, even coins, humans still had to exchange value. We just didn't have a good system for it. Imagine I raise chickens. You grow apples. If I want some apples, I offer you one of my chickens. If you want it, cool, trade complete. If not, we've got a problem. That's called the double coincidence of wants. You need to want what I have, and I need to want what you have at the same time for the trade to work. It was messy, inconvenient, limited. So we invented something better, something everyone would want even if they didn't need it immediately, something that could store value over time, be divisible, portable, durable. Enter money. The early stages of money. First we tried shells, beads, cattle, salt. Then metal coins, bronze, silver, gold. Why gold? Because it checked all the boxes. Rare, you can't just make more. Durable, doesn't rot. Divisible, melt it, reshape it. Recognizable, shiny, heavy, beautiful. Gold became the king of value. Empires were built on it, and for centuries, the world trusted gold, not because a king said so, but because its properties made sense. It had intrinsic value, value not assigned by law, but by reality. But carrying gold around, not very convenient, so we evolved. From metal to paper. Banks emerged. You could deposit your gold there. In return, they gave you a note, a certificate saying, this paper represents X amount of gold. Boom, that paper became money, because it was backed by something real. Government stepped in, standardized currencies, central banks were born. Paper became money itself. But for a long time, those paper bills were still convertible to gold, until they were. In 1971, the U.S. government, under President Nixon, officially ended the gold standard. From that moment on, money was no longer backed by gold. It was backed by trust. Trust that the government wouldn't print too much. Trust that the economy would keep growing. Trust that inflation wouldn't get out of hand. And for a while it worked. Digital era, numbers on screens. Fast forward to today. You barely touch cash anymore. You get paid through apps. You pay rent online. Your salary is direct deposited. Your bills auto-deduct. Money is just data. Your account balance is an entry in a bank's database. So really ask yourself, what is money right now? It's not coins. It's not paper. It's not gold. It's a social contract, enforced by governments and institutions, that says, these numbers in this system can be exchanged for goods and services. And because we all agree to that, it works. But what happens when the system breaks? Trust is fragile. In countries with stable currencies, like the US, Germany, Japan, we take that trust for granted. But ask someone from Venezuela, or Zimbabwe, or Argentina, or Turkey. Hyperinflation, frozen accounts, capital controls, currency devaluation. Imagine working your whole life, saving money, only to wake up and realize that overnight your savings are worth half as much. Or worse, that your government has limited how much of it you can even withdraw. When trust fails, people suffer. And that brings us full circle to the question crypto dares to ask. What if money didn't require trust in any single institution? What if money itself could be trustless, meaning the rules are enforced by code, not politicians or bankers? That's where we begin to understand the why behind crypto.
So here we are. We've gone from chickens and apples to gold and paper to numbers on screens. And we've learned one thing. Money has always evolved to match what people needed most at the time. But here's the twist. As we made money more convenient, we also made it more fragile. And in the modern world, where most money is digital and most systems are centralized, we've created some very real problems. Let's look at them. Problem 1. Inflation. Inflation isn't inherently bad. A small, steady inflation can actually help economies grow. But when governments overprint money or mismanage it, inflation can spiral. In Venezuela, it reached over 1,000,000% in 2018. In Turkey, inflation recently hit 70%. Think about that. You save $10,000 today, and next year it buys the same as $5,000 or $2,000. That's not just numbers, that's people's rent, groceries, medicine. It's economic erosion, silently eating away your future. And the worst part, you can't opt out. You must use your national currency or face legal, financial, or physical consequences. Crypto flips that. It lets people move their value into something scarce, not printed at will. That's a big deal. Problem 2. Censorship and control. What happens if a bank flags your account, or freezes your funds, or denies a transfer you need to make? You wait, you call support, you hope. But in some countries, it's worse. Governments block donations to opposition parties. They freeze protesters' funds. They shut off access to platforms they dislike. Money becomes a tool of power, not just utility. Crypto, by design, resists that. With crypto, you hold your keys. You control access. You decide where and how to send value. That doesn't mean criminals, it means freedom. A woman fleeing a war zone with a USB stick containing her life savings. That's not theory, that's real. Problem 3. Limited access. Over 1.4 billion adults in the world don't have a bank account. Not because they're lazy, but because they don't have documents, access, or stable infrastructure. Crypto requires one thing: internet. With a smartphone and a free wallet app, anyone can receive, store, and send value. Suddenly they can work online, get paid, save, invest. It's not just decentralization, it's democratization. Problem 4. Inefficiency. If you've ever sent an international wire transfer, you know it's a mess. 3-5 business days. Up to 10% in fees. Middlemen everywhere. And don't get us started on remittances. People sending money home to families. In some corridors, fees are over 15%. That's criminal. Crypto sends stablecoins in seconds, near zero fees, no borders. People are already using this today, from the Philippines to Nigeria to Argentina. Problem 5. Opacity. Ever tried understanding how banks really work, or what happens after you swipe your card? It's a black box. Crypto, especially public blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum, is transparent by default. Every transaction is on-chain, traceable, auditable, immutable. That scares some people, but it also means no hidden bailouts, no off-the-books deals, no quietly printing more money without you noticing. It's not perfect, but it's honest. And then 2008 happened. Let's bring all this together. In 2008, the global economy collapsed. Why? Because of unchecked risk, complex derivatives, greedy incentives, and zero transparency. Banks gave out bad loans, packaged them as safe, sold them worldwide, and when it all blew up, the banks got bailed out, you didn't. People lost homes, jobs, retirement, trust evaporated. And right in that moment, January 2009, a new technology went live. The Bitcoin Genesis block was mined. It included this message, embedded forever. The Times 03/Jan/2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. That wasn't a coincidence, that was a message. Bitcoin wasn't just a currency, it was a rebellion. A rebellion against opacity, against corruption, against centralized control. And a proposal. What if the rules of money could be written in code, open, transparent, and fair? Bitcoin is the first draft of that idea, and from it, an entire ecosystem began to grow.